As a premier community in Hampton Roads, James City County strives to maintain a high quality of life for all citizens through sound fiscal management and legislative actions. In an ongoing effort to increase transparency, your Board of Supervisors holds public meetings to garner citizen input before making important decisions. Here is tonight's meeting agenda. Stay tuned. The Board of Supervisors meeting will begin shortly.
Call this meeting, the James City Service Authority Board of Directors, regular meeting to order. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you, Mr. Powell?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. If you could call the roll, please.
Mr. Eisenhower. Here. Mr. Hippel.
Here.
Ms. Sadler.
Here.
Mr. McGlennon.
Here.
Ms. Larson.
Here. Do we have any presentations this evening?
No, ma'am.
Any public comment?
No, ma'am.
All right. Our consent calendar includes minutes from the previous meeting. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion for approval?
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. No public hearings this evening. Any board considerations?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Any board requests or directives? Okay, thank you very much. General Manager's update, Mr. Powell?
Just two quick items. I wanted to make you aware there is another round of funding assistance available for people who are having difficulty with their utility bills. There's been $22 million made available from the federal government to the state. And the criteria are you have to be delinquent on your utility bill and your income has to be 150% or less of poverty. So this particular program is a little different than the previous two. It's being administered by HRSD. And the amount of money is not as much available to the state as we've had in the past, so it probably won't have as big an impact. But I did just want to make sure you were aware of that. And for the listening public, if you are having trouble with your utility bill, there is another round of potential assistance, and if you want additional information, you can contact our office. And then the only other thing I had is I would ask the board, I know the agenda says to adjourn to December 13th. There's the possibility that there may be an item that the board of directors may have to take action on before that. So I would ask you to adjourn to November 22nd when you adjourn the meeting.
November?
2 weeks from tonight.
Okay.
Or this after, it's
All right.
in the afternoon.
Just want to make sure it's
yes.
November.
Yeah.
December.
Did I say December? I'm sorry. Yeah, it's November 22nd.
Mr. Powell, I had a question. You said the state is going to get $22 million. I am guessing you don't know how that would be distributed or how much James City County might.
No, it's not really entirely clear at this point.
Okay.
It's coming from the feds to the state. I think there's a component of it that's first come, first serve. And so I think that HRSD is basically acting on this for the whole region, and I think our feeling is that that's going to allow this to go quicker.
And they're going to let customers know by hang tags on the doors
That's
of
correct.
delinquent customers?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, great. All right, thank you so much for that. All right, and then you did do the dashboard.
Yes, I'm sorry it was late, but yes, you did receive it this afternoon, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Okay, any questions on that?
Ma'am.
All right. If I could get a motion to adjourn until 5 p.m., well, that would be 1 o'clock
1 p.m.
on November 22nd for a special meeting of the James City Service Authority.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. call this meeting of the James City County Board of Supervisors to order for a regular meeting. Mr. Stevens, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Eisenhower?
Here.
Mr. Eisenhower represents the Jamestown District. Mr. Hippel?
Here.
Mr. Hippel represents the Powhatan District. Ms. Larson?
Here.
Ms. Larson represents the Berkeley District. Ms. Sadler?
Here.
Ms. Sadler represents the Stonehouse District and is vice chair to the board. Mr. McGlennon?
Here.
Mr. McGlennon represents the Roberts District and is chair to the board. Sitting to my far left is Adam Kinsman, County Attorney, and I'm Scott Stevens, County Administrator, and my pleasure to be clerk to the board.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stevens. Today, of course, is Election Day, and want to first say that I had the opportunity to vote earlier today and saw the process being carried out in a very efficient and effective manner. People were very accommodating at the election precincts, and the precincts seem to be encountering very brisk business. I would just point out that polls are still open until 7 o'clock tonight, and if you are in line when the 7 o'clock hour comes along but haven't yet voted, you will have the opportunity to vote. So if you are watching us tonight and suddenly realize that you haven't voted yet, you still have time. I would also point out that it is the case that Virginia now allows for Election Day registration. You can cast a provisional ballot, and so if you missed the registration deadline, you may actually go and vote tonight after filling out the registration form. Would also like to just take a moment to extend our condolences to our registrar, who experienced a significant medical issue recently. I know that's very frustrating for her, especially at this moment, not to be at the helm of the election, but we're all wishing Diana Moorman a very speedy recovery and look forward to her being back in good health and to efficiently and with great cheer lead our next election effort. We begin our meetings with a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We ask a young person in our community to lead us in that pledge each meeting. Tonight's pledge leader is a young man from the Jamestown District, so I'll call on Mr. Eisenhower to make the introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, our pledge will be led by Fletcher Grizzle. He attends J. Blayton School in 4th grade. He and his family live in Windsor Forest. And he's here tonight with his parents, Patrick and Jennifer Grizzle, and his sister, Abigail. His interest is in science, math, space, and Legos. His sports, Ninja Warrior, lacrosse, and swim team, and he's in Cub Scouts, gardening, and engineering clubs. He has the J. Blayton High Pride Award and Student Council class rep, and he participates in 4-H camps. So he's a pretty active young man, and so we are very pleased to have him here to give us to lead us in the pledge tonight. And Fletcher, if you would go ahead and lead us in the pledge after a moment of silence. You can walk up right now. Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fletcher, if you'll come up here, I've got a certificate for you. And I'm going to present that to you.
And while Mr. Eisenhower is having his picture taken with Fletcher, I'll just mention that my wife happens to be part of the Gardeners Club at the elementary school as well, and she says that Fletcher is a genius. So that's a high recommendation.
That's pretty high praise.
All right. We now move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment? All right. Bob Tubbs. Mr. Tubbs, welcome. Wouldn't mind giving your name and address for the record? That would be great.
Be happy to. Good evening, everybody. My name is Bob Tubbs. I reside at 4040 Colonial Crescent. And we're here tonight. It's ironic that you brought up the elections. We have decided to augment the election process by creating a pet election. Fletcher and his parents, if you have a minute, I have something for them that's related to this. If it's, didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry. So what we've done is we have been working for a number of years with United Way and PetSmart. They have, PetSmart has every this time of year has this process where you can buy stuffed animals when you check out. That money goes into the PetSmart charity funds, and those funds are used to underwrite grants and things for nationwide for shelters and rescues around the country. So we decided this year, and then the stuffed animals go to the charities in the community, House of Mercy, Fish, different places like that. So up till now, 2,000 or 2,500 of those stuffed animals would reside in my spare bedroom for a number of weeks. My wife was very patient about that, but we came up with a different approach this time. So before I explain it, I'd like to introduce, if I could, Nikki Martello from PetSmart and Sarella West from United Way. Nikki?
Hi, so I'm Nikki, I'm from PetSmart, and so I'm just here to discuss what we do a little bit more. Since we have started this process, our store alone has collected 12,000 stuffed animals to be donated to the community. Since I've been here, we've worked with United Way to do that, and so United Way has been able to get them out to a number of children in the area. They do only go to the children, which is awesome. And then we also have $1 of all the proceeds that go to the PetSmart charities this year, which has been a drastic increase from previous years. It used to only be 10%. So we are increasing what we're doing with pets and with the community.
Hi guys, so glad to be back in front of you. As you know, United Way works to bring our community together, mobilizing the kindness and generosity for those who need us most. This is one of the programs that's very unique. It allows us to bring joy and happiness to people who are struggling, people who otherwise might not have gifts to give on Christmas. So thanks to those who shop at PetSmart for donating the stuffed animals. Thank you, Bob, for being a community volunteer, helping to ensure that these go to the organizations in our community who are serving children, adults with disabilities, and seniors. And thank you so much, Nikki, for your leadership at PetSmart, making this possible. So I will turn it over to Bob to explain his new venture.
I do have a folder for everyone. Give it, thank you. You'll find something you might look at that looks familiar, which is an election ballot. And what we've done is we've set it up for, let me just get to the ballot. So we are assigning one each of the stuffed animals to each of the districts in James City County. And we've asked the county administrator to be part of this process. If there is anybody in the community that knows how to win campaigns, I would say it would be you folks, right? So we're going to ask you to manage, and we're going to draw randomly here. We're going to ask you to manage campaigns for each of the 6 stuffed animals in a competitive nature. We have QR codes on lawn signs that go to PACs, so there's a political action campaign funds, but between you and I, they're going to actually go to the different charities that are involved here. So, so we have Chance, Cherish, and Enchant, Lucky, Sunny, and Symphony. And we'd like, if you're amenable, to get your support on this. We'll be setting up donation stations and polling places throughout the community. We have one at the Police Administration building, and we have one at the Fire Administration building, as well as the Rec Center So we're distributing these donation locations throughout the community, as well as setting up polling places. There's some pictures in your packet. The first document you have is the actual ballot. Then we have two each, one for people food, one for pet food. So as we set up boxes and do those kinds of things, we'll be able to distribute that. For the pet food, it'll be Meals on Wheels have augmented their programs, so now that they're delivering pet food in addition to meals to their constituents. Heritage Humane, Homes for Hounds, A Taste of Heaven Sanctuary, and perhaps it's a Serendipity Cat Rescue. For the food insecurity aspect of things, House of Mercy, Grove, and Fish food banks will be beneficiary. There's some pictures in there of the polling stations, some of the folks that you may recognize in the packet there. And then finally, there's lawn signs for each of these, and I have one to give to each of you when we do the choosing here. And you'll see here there's a QR code that takes them to do donations. Campaign updates on the Facebook page that we've created to support this. And we've got a hashtag JCC pet election so that we can track the progress and what we're trying to accomplish with this. The goal here is obviously to stimulate donations and kind of make it a community thing, especially pre-holiday. The more we can fill the coffers, it gets us through the January, February, March timeframe when things aren't as plentiful. So if we have if we have an active campaign and we can get some interest, so the campaign measurements are going to be votes on Facebook. We have a poll set up. The monies that we're able to raise, if people do a donation and do the attribution to the hashtag that we've set up, then we know that this had something to do with it. So the number of donations and in person, any media coverage we might get. And then one thing that Busch Gardens, who steps up to everything that goes on in the community, they've donated a couple hundred Christmastown passes, and the point of that is to give that to the PetSmart employees who work so hard and make this whole thing work. So when you check out, they're always going to bring it up, and it's competitive, as Nikki will tell you, with her staff. Hey, I got 200 this week, and hey, I got 100. So Christmastown passes to them. A lot of them, either often can't afford an evening at Busch Gardens all the time. So kudos to them for doing that. So with that, Scott, would you? We'll start with Jim over here.
Got one, right? We sent it down, whichever way you'd like.
Yep, that's fine. Who do
I'll
you got?
pull
No, Scott. Who do you got?
I'm gonna, what did you
Pull one, too.
Enchant.
I have chance. Aha. Looks familiar.
Sunny?
I got the one right there, your birds. Huh? Yep.
All right.
Cherish.
That's pretty cute, though.
So, as campaign managers, I will work through your team here, and we'll, anything you can do that you can think of to help us drive the donation engine that we have for United Way, we would very much encourage and hope that you would see this as, what it is, which is just a fun holiday donation drive. So, and election. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to win get the most votes per the the assigned bird that they have there, so. Okay, any questions?
Well, thank you, Mr. Tubbs, and the United Way for this interesting project, and for PetSmart for supporting it. I'm sure it'll be an exciting and different experience for all of us.
Different kind of campaign,
Yeah.
I hope.
And I'll just take a moment to say that you certainly have proven your dedication to animals that need adoption. Every time I look at Facebook, I see Bob Tubbs has driven 300 miles to pick up 5 dogs to get adoption here in the Williamsburg area, including some of those who were being mistreated in a scientific experimentation.
Yes, I had 16
situation.
beagles in my car on August 5th.
So thanks for coming tonight
Thank you.
to be with us and for getting us involved.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make sure everybody understands that this man is responsible for me being owned by 2 black labs.
2's a good start.
Thank you very much. Okay. We have one more public comment, and that is it Alan or Aylin Parham?
Hello, Alin Parm.
Alin?
Yes.
And would you mind repeating your address for the record?
Yes, so my address is a little different. It's,
Okay, you don't have to be a resident of the county.
okay, it's 634 Chelsea Place, Newport News, Virginia.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alin Parm. I am a social studies teacher here in WJCC, and I'm also the president of the Williamsburg-James City Education Association, which is a lot to say, so we shorten it to WJCA. On behalf of the membership, WJCA represents not just our educators in the classroom, but we represent our educator support professionals, such as our cafeteria workers, our instructional aides, our paraprofessionals, our custodians, our administrative assistants, security, and many, many more in our division that work in our school division. In your future meeting with our WJCC school board, division leaders, and city council, we know that our leadership will discuss the areas of needs that will be reflected in our division's budget proposal. As the proposal is now being discussed in our school division, our executive board, along with the supporters in the division and the community, will be continuing to advocate and highlight those areas in need that will be reflected in the budget. Those areas that will have an impact to our operations, our employees, and our students in the classroom. I thank you for your leadership in WJCC. Please know that our executive board will be reaching out as we continue to advocate those highlighted areas of need as you have your future meeting with our school board coming up soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the work you do in the school system.
Thank you.
Okay, that is our public comment. As we move on to our consent calendar, we only have one item in the consent calendar this evening, and that is a grant award for State Rental Assistance Program. Anybody wish to have more discussion of this item, or do I have a motion to approve the consent
I'll
calendar?
move the motion.
Motion to approve the consent calendar. Mr. Stevens, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, we now move on to our public hearings, and our first public hearing is disposition of county-owned property located at 6145 and 6151 Old Mooretown Road and 130 Clark Lane. And Vaughn Pollard is going to be making the staff presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Vaughn Pollard, James City County Neighborhood Development Administrator. Before you this evening for your consideration is the disposition of properties off of Clark Drive and Old Mooretown Road. The county seeks to dispose of 3 residential properties in the Powhatan District, one located at 6145 Old Mooretown Road, real estate map tax number 3310100005, one located at 6151 Old Mooretown Road, real estate tax number 331010003, and another at 130 Clark Lane, real estate tax number 3220 100052. These properties are remnant parcels acquired as road right-of-way for the Clark Lane Mooretown Road CDBG project. Separately, Habitat for Humanity Peninsula and Greater Williamsburg is purchasing ownership of a property located at 100 Clark Lane, which is situated between the county-owned parcels. In purchasing, there exists a potential to create up to 9 new buildable lots. Should Habitat for Humanity be successful in purchasing 100 Clark Lane, the county would partner with Habitat and, as proposed in the attached memorandum of understanding, to re-subdivide the properties to create the envisioned 9 new lots, all of which would be developed as single-family homes that are priced for those making incomes that fall within the county's definition of workforce and affordable housing. In consideration of the county's partnership, the county land would not be sold to Habitat. Rather, 2 of the newly created lots would be retained by the county for development with Habitat, and the Habitat would develop the remaining 7. By separate action, the county has also sought and been awarded grant funding with no required local match to assist with the necessary costs. The development of the affordable housing on underutilized property was one of the strategies identified in the Workforce Housing Task Force. Staff recommends approval of the attached resolution, which would authorize the disposition and authorize the county administrator to execute those documents and agreements necessary to undertake this project.
Great.
If you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pollard. Any questions for Mr. Pollard? Hearing none, thank you very much. I will go ahead and open the public hearing. We don't have any speaker cards for this public hearing, so I will close the public hearing and ask the board for direction.
Motion for approval?
Motion for approval from Mr. Hippel. Any discussion? If not, Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan? Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, after the fact, I would like to basically say one thing. I really want to congratulate staff. This was I think, an excellent piece of staff work they've done on taking what is really an unutilized area and leveraging all the resources we have to make something happen. Not often we get these things that come along, and I really appreciate this.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. We'll now move on to the second public hearing, and that is SUP 220007, Branscome Resource Recovery and Aggregate Storage, and Terry Costello. And I would mention that Mr. Jack Haldeman is here representing the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Mr. J. Lipscomb has applied on behalf of Branscome Incorporated for a special use permit for a resource recovery and aggregate storage facility. The parcel is located at 750 Blow Flats Road, zoned M2 General Industrial, and is designated as General Industry on the 2045 Comprehensive Plan Land Use Map. There is an active borrow pit on the property that is subject to conditions of a previously approved SUP. Separate from the borrow pit use, concrete and other materials are also being brought to the site, crushed and then utilized at the Branscome asphalt plant on Merrimack Trail or sold on site to other contractors. A resource recovery and aggregate storage is a specially permitted use in the M2 zoning district. The applicant has requested an SUP to be able to operate this portion of the business in compliance with the zoning ordinance. Access to the site is provided by a private road that begins at the end of Blow Flats Road. Staff finds that the current width of Blow Flats Road does not meet VDOT's current standards for a 2-lane road and is inadequate for the current truck traffic. Furthermore, the intersection of Blow Flats Road and Pocahontas Trail also does not meet current VDOT standards with regard to the angle of the turn. There are continuing issues with deteriorating pavement, shoulder damage, and a decrease in visibility causing safety concerns. Staff finds that the proposal is compatible with surrounding zoning and development and is generally consistent with the 2045 Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Ordinance. However, this proposal will add more truck traffic to a local road that is inadequate to manage the current traffic. Therefore, staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors deny this application. Should the Board of Supervisors approve this special use permit, staff has included proposed conditions to mitigate a portion of the potential impacts that would result from this development. At its October 5th meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this application by a vote of 5-0, subject to the proposed conditions. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, as is Mr. Lipscomb. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Costello. Anybody want to ask any questions of staff? I have a couple that I would ask. This special use permit really should have been acquired in 2005 because that's when this process began on the site. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And so how was it that we discovered that there was this discrepancy?
As part of the special use permit for the borrow pit, staff performs a site visit every January. And when staff went out this January, the applicant had asked to expand the use. And what we noticed is there was piles of concrete and other materials. And at the time, we didn't realize that that was a separate use because you can use concrete and other materials to fill in for the borrow pit. And he explained that it was for another use and he wanted to expand that use. And then we informed him that he would have to get a separate SUP.
And in addition to the SUP that we're seeking tonight, there is that SUP for the borrow pit. Could you explain what the conditions of hours of operation are for the other existing SUP?
The other SUP is during daylight hours because currently there's no light on the site.
And is there any limitation on the amount of truck traffic that can be generated for either of these uses?
We did not put a limitation on it. It would be very difficult for us to monitor it and to enforce it.
As I understand it, one of the major objections to on staff's part to this is the angle of the intersection of Pocahontas Trail and Blow Flats Road. Could you talk a little bit about that situation and whether we know of any incidents where trucks have perhaps driven off the road or had any kind of difficulty in navigating the area?
Currently, the angle is approximately 45 degrees. According to VDOT standards, it's supposed to be greater than 75. We did check with the police department. We don't have any recorded accidents or any incidents at that intersection.
Would that include anything that would have required, for instance, assistance in removing a truck from a ditch or anything of that nature?
It would have to be reported to the police department for us to, but we're not aware of any incidences.
Does anybody else
I
have
had
any?
one follow-up. So you said that you went in January because of a yearly inspection process.
For the borrow pit.
For the borrow pit, yes. So this was the first time that there was a notice about the concrete. Do we have any idea if maybe it was noticed previously and it just didn't?
When staff goes out there every year, there's material out there, and as part of the borrow pit,
right,
we were under the assumption that it was part of the borrow pit operation because they're allowed to take inert material to fill in for the borrow pit. And the inert material can be broken concrete, broken road pavement. So when we've seen the concrete, that's what we thought it was part of the borrow pit operation. We did not see a crusher. We did not see any other evidence of crushing of materials or concrete being delivered.
Okay. Would the applicant have been aware that in order to do something different, that would require a different application, that you couldn't just do it underneath the one that they already had?
Well, the borrow pit SUP is strictly for the borrow pit.
Right. So which they were aware?
They were aware of.
Okay. Thank you.
And I guess I'll just ask one more question. That is, do we have indication of whether or not the applicant has respected the daylight hour operation?
Well, we have not received any complaints. I did have a discussion with him on Monday, and it became apparent to staff after our discussion that there were deliveries made of material between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. He has the Branscome has contracts with VDOT when they were doing interstate work, and VDOT will only allow contractors to work between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. So there were deliveries during those hours.
And this Low Flats Road does include residences, including a mobile home park right outside the private road?
Yes, there's approximately 11 residences in a small mobile home park.
Costello, I have a couple questions. So it sounds like the applicant was very forthcoming on what's going on there and what they're doing.
In January, he asked to expand the use.
Right.
So when we talked to him about the use, it became apparent that this wasn't it was a reclaimed area that was no longer used for borrow pit use. And so when he stated what he was doing, then we determined it required an SUP. And then he applied for an SUP, and he's trying to bring it into compliance.
Right, so what I'm trying to get to is I know in your statement, you said that we didn't know they need an SUP, and looks like the applicant may not have known they need an SUP, and it wasn't until y'all went out there and saw that and happened to say, hey, what are you doing here? What's going on? And, well, we're reclaiming, or we're doing this or that. And then, well, you can't do that. We thought you were filling this in. Sounds like we just assumed you were using this as fill. And sounds like they assumed that what they were doing was kind of covered in what they had. And I mean, if they've been doing this since 2005 and 15 plus years, 17 years, we're looking at it and we're just, both of us, sounds like the county and the applicant are both realizing, whoops, something's been going on here that we didn't know about. We didn't know as far as county, because I'm sure in 2005, if we'd have known that, we'd have told them then, hey, if you're grinding this and you're doing this, we have to have an SUP for it. And we just assumed that they were filling in the pit or doing something different. So, okay, this sounds like it's kind of a,
It's an industrial site, and both
Right.
uses are industrial uses.
yeah, and it sounds like we didn't know, they didn't know, kind of a, okay, we got to fix it now.
Right.
Now that we all know, we got to do something to fix this issue.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Costello. Unless anybody else has any questions for staff right now? Okay. Mr. Haldeman?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As Ms. Costello mentioned, the Planning Commission recommends approval of this application unanimously. Ms. Costello covered it pretty well, but a couple of points that the Planning Commission made during their meeting. There are some pretty good conditions attached to this application mitigating a lot of the effects. It is a substandard road, that's for sure, but this application is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance. We learned during the meeting that the borrow pit will be exhausted in 18 to 24 months. That's an estimate, but and with that will come a reduced level of truck traffic that will help offset the increase in truck traffic from the crushing and reprocessing. Recycling asphalt and cement is an environmentally friendly operation. It takes much less energy and environmental impact than to make cement and asphalt from scratch, so I understand. One of the commissioners used the word catch-22 in referring to the applicant, where the road is not adequate, but it does not rank high on the county's improvement priority. And so the applicant's kind of caught in a difficult situation. This is an industrial site that's served by an inadequate road, and whose fault is that? There was some concern about the several other vacant parcels along Low Flats Road that could eventually generate more traffic. I guess that's it. if there are any
Thank
questions.
you. Was, Mr. Haldeman, was the Planning Commission aware of the delivery of materials and the truck traffic in the overnight hours?
No. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing, and I'll call on Vernon Getty.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Vernon Getty of 1177 Jamestown Road. It's my pleasure to be here tonight representing Branscome, Inc., the applicant. You all are all familiar with Branscome. They've been doing business in James City County for over 60 years now, and their headquarters is right around the corner in McCaw Circle. This is Jay Lipscomb, an environmental manager with Branscome.
And Mr. Lipscomb, just for the record, your address, please.
Yes, sir. I live at 3144 Hollow Oak Drive in Toano.
Thank you.
A couple brief comments, and I think Mr. Lipscomb would like to address some of the issues that have been brought up. But first, the use itself. I think everybody agrees this is a great use. It's an environmentally responsible, friendly use, bringing the concrete on site and crushing it, selling it to other contractors to use as base. It's $6 a ton cheaper for them, and it saves crushing virgin stone in those operations. The asphalt millings, that recycled asphalt product, new asphalt mixes can have 30% recycled asphalt in them. So it's a very environmentally friendly operation that keeps this material out of landfills. So the use itself is good. This is a 287 acre heavy industrial site. It's isolated in the back there. So it seems like a great location to do this. And they've been mining that site since the 70s, and in 2005 is when they started bringing concrete onto the site. The asphalt had been stored at their Lee Hall asphalt plant right on Route 143 under the VEPCO power lines. And in 2010, 2011, VEPCO, which they had the power to do, asked them to move it. So this heavy industrial site right around the corner seemed like a great location. I will say the company had just simply didn't know that this was a separate use that required a special use permit. You've seen them enough over the years getting permits. If they knew they needed it, they would have come in and requested it. With that, I think Jay would like to give you a little more history and address a couple things.
Yeah, and what I'd like to do is just give you an overview. I've been before this board many times on renewing our use permit for the borrow pit. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of history. We've been continuously using the site for mining since the early 70s. And in 2005 was when we started bringing concrete demolition on site to be crushed and used for aggregate base material. Like Mr. Getty said, it's a whole lot cheaper for contractors, and contractors like David Nice, and they buy that stuff up as soon as we crush it. In 2010, as he mentioned, we had to relocate our asphalt millings. They were stored at our Lee Hall asphalt plant. Unfortunately, the only area we had to store them was under the VEPCO's transmission lines. And because of safety requirements, they directed us to remove that material. And so we relocated it to our Lee's Pit area. And so at that time, we then had both the concrete, rubble, and asphalt that is periodically crushed. And we also were storing millings there, which is the asphalt that's milled right off the highway. It can be put right back into the asphalt plant. So we had that in a separate piles there on site too. Now, I've applied for both an aggregate storage facility and a resource recovery. We have two different operations going there. In 2012, I applied for a permit from the codes compliance to put a tent on the property. And we did that to store mineral filler, which is an aggregate we have to buy to put in our asphalt when we run special mixes for VDOT on interstate work, SMA type mixes. So de facto, you've already accepted it as a aggregate storage yard with the grant of that permit. 2017, we improved the facility and put in a scale where we could weigh every truck going out of the yard with whether it have crushed concrete, asphalt, millings, or borrowed material. So for 17 years, we've been doing this operation. And as Terry said, every year we have a field trip in December where I take them to show them disturbed acreage that meets the county permit that I have to report to be under the 60 acres that the condition was put on by the board. So we've driven around these piles since 2011, and we've talked about them, and I explained what it's used for. What we do is we will stockpile it there, and when we get a sufficient quantity, we will contract a crusher to come on site. He moves in with his portable equipment, crushes the material. We usually do about 10,000 tons of concrete, probably twice a year. And then may come back and do 2 crushes of asphalt, 20,000 tons, for our use in the asphalt mix. So it's not been something that I've hidden from anybody. We've never tried to be deceptive or anything else. It just never dawned on the staff or us, being an M2 zone site, what a perfect place to do this operation. It's in the middle of 281 acres, no neighbors, no complaints for noise or anything else. So what happened was this past year, I had set up the field trip in December, and I had the zoning administrator with us as the staff person. And I asked her if we could subtract this area we're now using for aggregate storage and resource recovery from the disturbed acreage definition on my map that I submit every January. And she went back and looked into the case or into the question. And then she determined that, no, you have to have a SUP for resource recovery. And I said, okay. I thought no big deal. We've been doing it for 17 years. Staff's known about it. No complaints. So I filed the application, and then VDOT did have an issue with the road. But when we met with VDOT back in 2010, when we were renewing our mine permit, we had to make some repairs on the road. We met with VDOT, marked out 3 areas to undercut, backfill, and repave the whole street. The street's held up pretty well. But in 2010, VDOT took the initiative and widened the entrance. And they even took out the big oak tree that was right there, hindering traffic, visibility, and turning ability. So they made some minor improvements. Nothing was ever said at that time other than the condition of the asphalt, in which we fixed and paved and took care of. So the issues with traffic, the borrow pit is playing out. We have less than 3,000 tons, and then we'll be done. It'll be strictly a reclamation operation for us at that time. We still have the Bickford side of the property, which is owned by Waste Management, and we have the mine permit for that and the SUP for that to excavate clay for their landfills. The new technology for the landfills is now the plastic liners. They don't use clay anymore. So I doubt we'll even mine this in the future for Waste Management. So the mine traffic is going to play out. We'll just have vehicles coming in for resource recovery, and we'll just be accepting dirt dumps that we're using for the reclamation. Because our goal for that property is to have it as industrial. And once we finish using it for our business. So that just gives you an oversight of where we are.
Yeah, and you may have noticed in the traffic information, Jay submitted that 70% of their traffic is related to the mining operation and 30% is the resource recovery. So traffic will decrease when the mine is played out and shuts down. Branscome certainly realizes Boy Flats Road is not ideal, and they would love to have an alternate access. They have approached Walmart about gaining access to Greenmount Parkway, which comes through the Walmart property and ends 1,400 feet from their property. And to date, they have just frankly gotten the runaround. So that would be a great alternative access. They'd rather go out that road and go out to a stoplight on Route 60 than the current route, but they don't have the ability to do that right now. It seems like the answer here is either to get an alternative access or everybody coming together, because they're certainly not the only user of this road. There are a number of industrial users and other potential industrial users to figure out a way to get Boy Flats Road improved. So our ask would be to not shut this operation down. It's a good operation. It's been going on for 17 years. They've not gotten complaints. I don't think staff's gotten complaints, and there have been no accidents. Jay tells me, to your question, Mr. McGlinnan, that for their trucks, they have not even had to pull any out of ditches or anything of that nature, that they've had literally no accidents. So we would ask you to approve this SUP and let them keep going, and they will commit to you. They'll keep working, hopefully with the county, to get access to Greenmount Parkway. Seems to me that would be a great solution for everybody, but in the meantime, to approve this permit so they can continue their operation. And either Jay or I'd be glad to answer any questions. Anything else you'd like to add,
I just
Jay?
wanted to elaborate. The question about bringing materials in the evenings, we did bring millings to the site last week, probably 2 nights. When we milled on the interstate, all we do is we have the trucks dump, and then they go back out to the paving train or the milling train. So we'll stop that if that's a concern. It hasn't been, no complaints have been risen to me or to our office. But if that is an issue for the board, then we will just cease that operation and we'll take the millings elsewhere. It'll be an inconvenience, but it won't be a showstopper.
And I think in conversations, I had mentioned earlier a plant in Charles City that they've taken to, but it appears they have a Richmond plant that needs the milling, so that they would go up to their Richmond plant.
Millings and the asphalt's a valuable product in the manufacturing of asphalt, because we can put 35% of the recycled materials in the new asphalt. So that cuts down the cost considerably. So this is a big part of our operation, our business.
Thank you very much. I have no other cards for this public hearing, so I'll close the public hearing, and if any board members wish to ask either staff or the applicants any questions, that would be certainly appropriate now. I guess I would just ask if it could, and the reason that I've highlighted some of the issues that I've raised here is because I did talk to residents on Boy Flats Road who brought to my attention what their perception of a situation which was increasingly becoming a case where there was a lot of traffic as late as 2 o'clock in the morning, and that they were experiencing large numbers of truck traffic coming in and out, and not in the last week, but rather over a broader period of time. And the concerns that were expressed about the nature of the intersection at Pocahontas Trail and Boy Flats Road, which, based on some photographs that we've seen for another case, looked pretty challenging in that instance as well. And so I certainly agree that this is a useful activity that we wouldn't necessarily want to deny if it were just a question of that kind, but we do have a community that pre-existed the industrial uses in this area, pre-existed planning and zoning in the county, and so it's important for us to be sensitive to the fact that people are saying to me, at least, that they are finding their nights disturbed by activity that's occurring in violation of an existing SUP, which does limit activities to daylight hours. And so I guess my concern about approving this SUP in the absence of any kind of improvement in the situation is that there's no incentive then to try to find an alternative way of providing for this service without creating the kind of negative consequences for the neighborhood. So while I understand the desire to continue the operation here at this time, it does appear to me that it's worth taking the time now to figure out if there is a realistic alternative available before the board took final action on the determination of whether or not to have this SUP approved.
Yeah, to your point, I wasn't aware that, I do know we got some, excuse me, questions this week, and I wasn't aware that those were coming from citizens, so if we're gonna, I would be interested in seeing if there's any way that you could follow up with Walmart to come up with a alternative access, and I would also be interested if the nighttime traffic, you're willing to do away with that, I would rather wait to see it in writing exactly what those parameters are before I took action on anything this evening with it.
Mr. Chair. Well, we've been 17 years operating this business, and I think in 17 years, not hearing any complaints till this week is surprising. We haven't heard any in the county. They haven't heard any. Not saying they had any concerns, and maybe people just didn't realize who to contact, which is okay. It fits with all our plans, our comp plan and all. It fits in. The Planning Commission did a great job on vetting this out and looking at what needs to be done. I agree with the catch-22 as far as they thought they were operating and taking county staff around for 17 years, showing them the site, and then ask a question, hey, how do I address this map? Can I take this part out? And then that's when, bang, oops, we have an issue here. Well, I think it was an issue on both our sides is with this operation. There's nothing that's been hidden. If this had been an operation that was denied years ago by the board and hidden by the board or by the applicant, and they were trying to do it in the dark of the night, I would say no way. But being that they've been forthcoming, they work with staff, they showed staff everything every single year. I think our biggest issue isn't with their operation, it's with the road. And that's probably another failure as things have grown up out there as far as VDOT and maybe what we have not been able to do as far as the road goes. I don't see clamping down on this and saying you got to figure out now how to put a new road in. I think maybe we should get with Branscome and the others that are out there and get them with our EDA and go, how do we do something, either make the road better or have another route? Would it be better to go out by the light? I agree. That would be the best route to go out. And then that way it's safer and everything else. We get away from that one intersection. I'm hearing tonight that, you know, I heard and read some of the emails that their trucks were in the ditches and that sort of thing. And hearing tonight that they haven't had a truck in a ditch. They've had no accidents. They've had no complaints. And it seems like that if we deny this tonight, we're saying, well, you got caught in a 22 and you don't have any complaints. You're running a good operation, but we really don't think you're gonna, we're gonna approve it. I don't think that's fair to a company who has the name they have and does the good work that they do and pays the taxes and everything else into the county and go, you know what, we may not want you. As we know, 35% of the trucks, or they'll only have 35%, is what I gathered, left of the trucks on the road compared to what they have today in about 24 months. So as a pit basically dies out and they don't use it, they'll have less trucks on that road as it is. I think we ought to work with the business. I think we ought to have the EDA work with the business, have VDOT involved in it, have our staff involved in it, have the companies that are out there involved in it, and try to figure out this road. I don't think anybody on the board is against the company. I think it's more of the road and the way the road is and the way the road's always been. I mean, it's always been just a little windy little road down there. And so I know we have more companies that are looking to go down there, and the Grove area there's a lot of industrial down there. And maybe it's time that we put a little money into that area down there as far as the road. I know that I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure not a one board member doesn't appreciate what the company's doing and how they're doing it. I think our biggest issue is this road, not the company. They got hung up in this process of, we've just got a terrible road down there and we need to fix it. And we need to come together to fix it. And, I know I buy a lot of products from my company, from the asphalt. I love the fact that they now can reclaim the asphalt and put it back into the roads. And they're required to put so much in order for the environment and everything else. All this used to be dumped in a landfill. Now we're grinding it up. We're using it in parking lots. We're using it as undercuttings. We're using it as pavement. Everybody's using it. They use it all over the county now. It's amazing what got thrown away and filled our dumps. Now maybe one day we can go in and reclaim it, but right now we're reclaiming what we get. So I think we're doing they're doing a good job. I think they're a service to our community, and I think they do very well as far as promoting a more greener environment as well with the reclaiming. That's my 2 cents. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And the only point that I would make is that it is important to remember that there are residents that live along that road, that they are currently experiencing on peak day 250 truck trips per day on that road, and that there is a condition on the existing SUP that limits the hours of operation that was not respected.
And I understand that, and that's why I'm thinking maybe we can work with the EDA and find another route. But also, we've got to remember, with our new codes and our new planning and everything that's in place, is those are non-conforming residents as well, even though they've been there longer and everything grew around them. But if we were to go, okay, I want to put a house down there, well, that's non-conforming to the area. So that would be another, oops, you really probably shouldn't live here. Even though I'm not saying they should live there, they should live there. So don't get that wrong, but it's kind of like catching this company in the, you shouldn't be doing this, but we missed it. How do we fix it?
Just to clarify, I did not move that we deny this permit tonight.
No, I know.
I said that what we really need to do is to figure out if there is any kind of probable way to move ahead on figuring out a solution that I don't really think involves blow flat road, but rather involves another alternative access. And if we can make some progress on that, I think it would satisfy a lot of concern.
You think of reworking the application, tweaking it a little bit?
I'm thinking about at least finding out whether there's enough momentum to get something going to extend Greenmount Parkway. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Other board members.
Yeah, I'm just very briefly, I think Michael has put his finger on the problem. When I read through the agenda, we've got 3 things tonight that are occurring on Blow Flats Road. And it very quickly became apparent to me that this is an issue not so much of each individual application, but of the road itself. And so if we can I'm perfectly happy to, if you want to do a deferral, to try to see if we can get any kind of momentum or support behind looking at an alternative access. And on the same, by the same token, the company's expressed a willingness, if it's really a problem of nighttime traffic, of eliminating the nighttime traffic. So I think that is a good faith effort on their part. Those two aspects, looking at another alternative possibility for getting in and out, and I don't see that we would necessarily get a short-term solution on that. But I think I'm willing to give it some time to see what's maybe achievable. But it would require more than just the applicant. It would require the application of our EDA, our staff, a cooperative effort of a lot of people to try to address that issue, because it's not just an issue for this company, it's an issue for the county. In the longer term, I think ultimately, whether they have a different access for that borrow pit or not, there are other parcels that will get developed down off of Blow Flats Road. That's a very heavy industrial area, and clearly the road is inadequate. So not everything is going to be able to go through an alternative through Greenmount. Ultimately, we're going to have to make some sort of a decision on what we're going to do to bring that road up to standards, because for me, it becomes an economic development issue. If we're going to economically develop that property down there for the industrial base we want for the community, we got to provide the resources. So again, I think that's a longer term that this has brought into focus for us, that we need to really concentrate some of our effort on. I'm inclined to support this application, but I'm perfectly willing to give it, if we can give a slight delay to find out what other alternatives are, and to determine whether or not we really want to prohibit the nighttime use, because essentially that material would go elsewhere, and that's a trade-off we might want to make on behalf of the citizens in that area.
So first of all, I guess I'm struggling a little bit with the fact that for 17 years, we've obviously got a disconnect somewhere, that it may require that we become a little bit more educated on what different things to look for on sites, because I can certainly see why the applicant would think that what they were doing was okay when we haven't called attention to it prior. But I too would like to see if we could get a little bit on firmer ground and see if there's some alternatives out there. Not saying I don't want to, don't want to delay for 6 months, but just work some time to see if there's some possibilities that we might be able to come up with, if the applicant would be agreeable to that. Because I don't want to dismiss, the residents that live there at all. It's very difficult to find affordable housing in this county, and so you got to live where you live, and I don't want, just because you may not live in an area where you may not, be aware of all the places to complain or something like that. I want us to be very cognizant of that and respectful of the residents that live there as well. So I would like to be able to come to see if we could come up with some agreements to move forward.
So I wonder if the applicant has anything they'd like to say about.
We're certainly willing to have a deferral. Another idea might be a limit on the validity of an SUP for this operation for some reasonable amount of time, which, like you do with the mining permit, you can then reassess where we are. And to the concern that the applicant might not be willing to try to come up with an alternate access, that would keep an incentive out there.
I guess I'd ask our county attorney about the question about the limitation of that nature.
While I don't generally agree with the use of sunset clauses, we have used them in truly temporary uses previously, including borrow pits. And so I would be okay with that if the board wanted to use that in this particular instance.
So that way
So
they
how would
could,
that work?
so they could operate for an X amount of time, and then we'd reevaluate it, look at it, and see what kind of arrangement we and they and the others might be able to put together for a road. Is that what we're talking about? You know, keeping the operation going, knowing that you
Is a
have,
limit date coming?
there's a limit of time coming that we have to address this again. And in that way, it would keep the operation going. We'd give you a limit where y'all, staff, EDA, and others in that area would try to come together and figure out how we could do something, either fix the road or have an alternate road out to the stoplight. Is that something that would? And
We would be acceptable to that, and, you know, we can stop the trucks delivering millings in the evening. That was strictly for convenience, because we were paving this low end of the county. We'll just divert them elsewhere, where there aren't any neighbors. And I think the solution for a time would be acceptable, that we could work with the Walmart folks. Because it's to their benefit too. They've had to give us a mile easement to get to our property. But if we can go from our property right across to Green Mountain Road, it's only 1,400 feet. And then they can stop all that traffic behind their warehouses. So they do benefit too. And,
Just a matter of making them realize that.
right. But the help I would need from the county is to try to cut through the bureaucracy of Arkansas, the Walmart folks in Arkansas.
Good luck with that.
Good luck. Let me suggest that we defer this item for 1 month and then come back to the question of the consideration of a limited approval, just so that we can feel comfortable with what's being suggested here rather than do it on the fly tonight. I think that would make the most sense for us.
that would that still give them the ability to continue, except for the nighttime shift, but continue to operate as they are right now? Yes, okay.
Okay. So if that's acceptable to all parties, I'll move that we defer the consideration of this item until our December 13th meeting. Is that correct date? Okay. Any further discussion?
Thank you all.
And I'll ask, call a roll, please.
Yeah. Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, our next public hearing number 3, is SUP 220010, 9201 and 9225 Pocahontas Trail, the grease outlet. Ms. Yates.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Mr. Chip Haskell and Mr. Boyd Andrews with Grease Outlet of Virginia LLC have applied for a special use permit requesting to allow the use of the property for a grease waste collection, treatment, and transfer station. The subject properties are located at 9201 and 9225 Pocahontas Trail, zoned M2 General Industrial, classified as general industry on the 2045 Comprehensive Plan, and located inside the primary service area. The facility would include an industrial dome structure with retractable front and rear doors, 4 storage receiving tanks, processing equipment, and an office building. Grease haulers bring waste from food service entities like fast food chains and restaurants to the facility, where it is initially screened to separate trash from grease. After screening, this trash is then diverted to a landfill. The remaining grease waste is then separated into a solid byproduct and liquid. The liquid is pre-treated and routed into the sanitary sewer collection system that connects to the Hampton Road Sanitation District treatment plant. The leftover solid waste byproduct is transferred to a third-party disposal facility, primarily composters. With the exception of traffic impacts to Blow Flats Road, staff finds the proposed conditions will mitigate impacts to surrounding properties and development. Staff also finds that this proposal is compatible with surrounding zoning and development and is generally consistent with the 2045 Comprehensive Plan and zoning ordinances. If approved, the facility would be accessed by a narrow, substandard local road. Furthermore, the intersection of Blow Flats Road and Pocahontas Trail does not meet current VDOT standards. Staff finds the roadway may not be suitable for the increase in industrial trucks associated with this proposed special use permit. At the October 5th, 2022 regular meeting, the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval of this SUP request to the Board of Supervisors, subject to the proposed conditions. However, staff recommends denial of this application. Should the Board of Supervisors approve this case, staff has included proposed conditions to mitigate a portion of the potential impacts that would result from this development. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time, and the applicant is also available as well.
Okay.
Yes, I do have one. Since we've been talking about truck traffic, what are the trips per day?
At peak time, 6 per day.
6 trips?
6 trips.
That's it?
That's it.
Not in the middle of the night?
Not in the middle of the night. Their hours of operation are 5 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions for the staff?
Smell. Is there any smell associated with it?
There is, and condition number 14 addresses the smell, and I can read it for you if you'd like.
I just want to get it out for the public.
Oh, yes.
Because I know they'll be asking.
Sure, and not only, it's specifically, I would like to share that the construction of the dome shape that is currently in North Carolina is open-ended on either side, but the proposed construction for the Virginia site will have the retractable doors. So it'll be enclosed with the retractable doors, and inside will be a activated carbon filtration system.
Thank you. Just, I know people may ask that question of what would the smell be, and French fries.
That's not a bad thing.
That's right.
Ms. Yates, in the previous case that we just heard, the staff report indicated that we couldn't ask for improvements to Blow Flats Road as a condition of the SUP. In this instance, you are proposing some modification, presumably because of the direct access to the public road in this instance. Could you explain that a little bit?
Sure. Per condition number 9, the condition states an improvement to the road that is specific to that parcel. We cannot ask for off-site road improvements, but the applicant has, we've worked with the applicant to help mitigate this by adding additional shoulder work alongside the parcel that abuts to Blow Flats Road.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, Mr. Haldeman.
Hi again. I don't have a lot to add. The additional widening of the road that is part of the conditions is 4 feet, 4 feet widening of the shoulder, which was one of the benefits cited by commissioners in deciding to recommend approval to this. We did recommend approval unanimously, as Ms. Yates mentioned. We also thought the design of the entrance has good visibility. It's on the curve, as you can see, but they've done a good job of providing good visibility. This would lower the cost to local businesses, which we thought was a benefit. Not only it's a new business in James City County with all that entails, employment and tax revenue and the like, but it also lowers cost for area restaurants and other providers of the raw material, polite term, I guess. So those were the things cited by my fellow commissioners. Is there any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Haldeman from the Planning Commission? Very much. Go ahead and open the public hearing and call on Boyd Andrews for the applicant. Andrews.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Boyd Andrews, and I am one of the co-owners of Grease Outlet and I appreciate you all hosting us here tonight. There's a couple of parts of the presentation. Some of it is just familiarizing you all with what it is we do. It is a little bit of a unique business, and so I will try to communicate it in a way that makes sense to me. I'm fortunate that I've got a great team, and our general manager, Joe Van Skyke, is here with us, and he's the one that is actually really the technical expert on our team. Thank you to the planning staff. They've been very, very collaborative and communicative, and it has been a process here to understand everything that is required to open a business in James City County. My partner and I, we started this venture about 7 years ago. We worked with Joe Van Skyke, our general manager, and constructed what has now been a very well-run business and facility in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we have proposed the development of a nearly identical facility here in James City County. We have had zero complaints of odor. We have had clean inspection reports from all county and state officials. And by and large, we are recognized by our customers and those folks as operating the cleanest and highest quality facility in this business. We like to start with a little bit of an overview here. Grease traps are really everywhere. You don't see them because they're underground, but they're outside of every business. They're at every hospital. They're at retirement homes, any place that has a commercial kitchen. The sink drain, the dishwasher, and the floor drain all flow through an underground plumbing device that is designed to retain fats, oils, and grease and food from entering the sewer system. If those materials entered the sewer system, we would get a lot more clogs and sewer system overflows, and we would have an undesirable situation. So typically, these are regulated by the Sewer System Authority and by state regulations, that these are installed at the time that there's a commercial kitchen opened. There are two flows out of the grease trap. There's a consistent flow to the sewer system operator, in this case HRSD, and then there's periodic flows where the trap is serviced. You'll see here there's a vacuum truck, and that service person there is using a vacuum force to extract all of the materials from a grease trap, and then they will transport that material in the vacuum truck to a disposal facility. Here in Virginia, in this area, they're currently transporting this material to one of several HRSD facilities and then unloading there. What we're suggesting is that there is a new way where these vacuum trucks deliver the materials to us and we handle the pretreatment. We would then discharge the pretreated water to HRSD sewer system, and we would then transport these solids to a composter. We currently have a 6-year relationship with working with McGill Environmental, who is a composter that has a facility in Raleigh, and they also have a facility in Waverly, Virginia. We would use our specialized equipment to transport the solids to the composter. Importantly, as was correctly described, all of the operations there highlighted in the red squares will take place inside of our building, and we will control the airflow and pull it through a carbon filter. A little bit on some of the background and discussions we've had with some of the good businesses here in the area. I looked back at the emails when we started this conversation, and it was October of last year, so a little over a year ago. I initiated communications with HRSD, and over the course of the next 4 months, we had consistent dialogue where we shared with them our permits in North Carolina, our clean inspection reports, as well as our monthly laboratory reports. As part of a pretreatment permit in North Carolina, we're required to take frequent samples. We send those samples to a third-party lab who analyzes those samples, and we provide those sample reports to the utility, and then we are charged fees based upon the criteria that are listed in the lab report. HRSD fully evaluated our performance over the months, and additionally, in March of this year, the chief of pretreatment and pollution visited our facility in Raleigh, inspected the facility, observed our operations, and interviewed our operators, and found that we have the capability to meet the discharge requirements here in this area. We will need to work collaboratively with HRSD over the coming months to establish the methods and conditions necessary to obtain and comply with a pretreatment permit. But that is the principal environmental permit that will govern our operations on site. I'll pause here just for a minute because I'm going to go into more of site specifics and stuff like that. But does anybody have any questions kind of about what it is that we do or are proposing to do here on the site? Okay. Our site does have a Pocahontas Trail address. I think it's a little bit because it was originally connected to Pocahontas Trail. There is no part of the site which now abuts Pocahontas Trail. The only way to access the site is via Blow Flats Road. If you have been out there, the access is on the curve of Blow Flats Road, and it is 0.1 miles to the intersection of Pocahontas Trail. Very, very close. It is a 7.44 acre site. It is zoned general industrial. And importantly, we have established the expectation on deliveries based upon the deliveries that are currently occurring to HRSD facilities. And so it is not a wild speculative guess. It is based upon the facts of businesses currently operating the area and currently delivering materials to HRSD facilities. Importantly also, we are located very, very close to the new Skiffs Creek connector, and it is one of the attractive aspects of the site. We do believe that our customers will access our site via the Skiff Creek connector in I-64. Here you can see our site plan. We did work with the county to perform an archaeological study. We've worked with the EDA and performed a phase 1 and evaluated the property on a number of different fronts to make sure that it is both suitable for our business and suitable for development. We evaluated the proximate neighbors and the adjacent uses of the properties. And we do agree with the staff's conclusion that with the exception of traffic impacts on Blow Flats Road, it's consistent with the 2045 plan in the general industrial use of the property. So here's, I think, an important part of the discussion. Here is the traffic on Blow Flats Road. We have captured some of the information from Branscome SUP application here, and I think we've heard some of the presentation earlier tonight that a significant portion of Branscome's traffic is related to the mine reclamation as opposed to the mining operation as opposed to the reclamation of materials. Their operation is a significantly larger than our business, and their reduction in traffic as a result of the expiration of the mine will more than offset the 5 new truck deliveries a day that would occur because of our operation. I think additionally it's important to understand that Branscome is all the way at the end of Blow Flats and has to travel, their trucks have to travel by all of the residents that are along Blow Flats, and we are right at the mouth of Blow Flats, and our entrance is really close to US 60, and there's essentially one resident there that's right at the junction of Blow Flats and 60. I think, according to our calculations, that overall, once the mine expires, even with our new traffic of 5 trucks a day, that overall traffic counts will be somewhere between 35% and 54% lower in 2024 than they were forecasted there in 2021, okay? And so I'm saying 2024 because we've been meeting with a number of construction and permitting firms, and we think that if we are so fortunate as to receive approval tonight, it probably would take about 12 to 15 months to work through the process of getting permits and construct. We are a small business. We are two individuals who have extended an enormous amount of our personal investment capabilities, time, and energies in running a great business. We do have 5 employees. We have had 0 turnover in spite of COVID. We serve our customers exceptionally well, and our customers are the ones who have asked us to expand and grow up in this area of Virginia. We desire to locate in James City County, and we have been very, very impressed with the professionalism and communication from the citizens, from HRSD and the Planning Commission. And while Blow Flats Road isn't modernized, it has proven sufficient to handle significantly more traffic than is projected in 2023. And we have proposed to make significant investments to add 4 feet of pavement to the shoulder of Blow Flats Road to do what we can do to mitigate some of the impacts of our development. That concludes my presentation. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I had one question, and it sounds like basically right now these trucks go straight to HRSD, and HRSD handles it. If in collaboration with HRSD, this process is set up, do you take all of that traffic from them? In other words, there would no longer be any trucks going directly to HRSD. They would all come through you.
So it's hard to know exactly. We would think that those trucks that currently deliver to the Williamsburg facility, which is off of, I think, Ron Springs Road, which is pretty close to our facility, we would think that those deliveries would come to us, and that is the estimates that we have used to estimate our truck traffic there. And so it is, we do anticipate it being still a net benefit for HRSD because we will be a ratepayer to HRSD, and we are taking on a lot of the responsibilities and cost that we're very focused and capable to do. It is, sometimes difficult for a operation which requires absolute reliability 24/7, 365 when you're receiving a lot of materials via the pipes to stop and handle, one truck that has a lot of fugitive material in it that can create problems in your operation.
Any other questions for the applicant? I would just appreciate, I know it's in your report, but would you just tell us the sizes of the trucks that would be coming to the site?
You bet. So there's essentially 2 types of vehicles. There's vacuum trucks. One of them is, we call them a straight truck, but they carry about 3,500 gallons, and they're maybe 33 feet long, Joe, something like this. And then a little bit larger would be a truck and trailer, and they would be more like 43, 45 feet long. And so there's, just like any other truck on the road, there is some diversity. We have some very, very small trucks that are specialized to go and do inside things, and they look not much more than a pickup truck, but that'll give you an idea that, they're a little shorter than the large scale kind of dry vans that are typically 53 foot that would be going into the Walmart distribution center.
And when you, on the slide here, you had average truck traffic or average traffic on that you would generate for Blow Flats Road. Was that inclusive of just the trucks coming in with materials for treatment and out with the material to be composted or dealt with in other ways? Or is that all your traffic?
So that is the commercial traffic. So we do have 5 employees, and so that would be additive to that, right? And so.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, let me go ahead and thank you for your presentation and ask if Cade Lamon would like to. Lamon? Layman,
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chairman and distinguished board members. My name is Cade Lehman. I reside at 1608 Manufacturers Drive. I'm here tonight to speak on the grease outlet special use permit 2210 located at 9201 and 9225 Pocahontas Trail. I do support this project and its location. I find this business operation is congruent with the other business activities located in the area. However, I must at this time ask the board to deny this application based solely on the proposed access to this parcel from Blow Flats Road. Please do not allow this proposed left-hand turn in a blind corner. As you are aware of the current heavy traffic conditions, I myself have found confronted many times head-to-head with some of the traffic in this blind corner. I did see a proposal for an additional 4 feet of asphalt width. This is not enough to mitigate this current road hazard. I do understand that the applicant plans to have a low access rate of only 6 trucks per day. Even this low number is a possible opportunity for collision. It's not about the volume of traffic, it's about the reduced reaction time. If the applicant may consider moving the entrance further to the west, this may be more viable. I also asked that the staff consider, or the board consider, having a traffic study done with these larger vehicles. I do hope that this applicant can find a better access point and that this project may move forward. Thank you for letting me speak this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. And I believe it's Tom Waltz.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening. I'm here because I didn't win the Powerball drawing last night. No, but good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members. For those of you who know me, you may find this hard to believe.
Mr. Waltz, would you mind giving your name and address
I'm sorry.
for the record?
It's Tom Waltz, 134 Andrews Crossing, and that's in Yorktown.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. For those of you who know me, you may find this hard to believe, but I will be brief and to the point. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tom Waltz, and I'm a commercial real estate broker who represents the owners in the sale and marketing of the subject property. We respectfully request your support of this application for several reasons. The first, I believe, should be pretty obvious. We'd like to sell the property. Grease Outlet is an environmentally friendly company who processes liquid and solid materials collected in restaurants and commercial kitchen grease traps. We believe this proposed use is a very good use for this centrally located site in James City County, as it provides a unique and valuable service for a multitude of restaurants and commercial kitchens, which fuel the local tourism industry. James City County, Williamsburg, and other surrounding communities will all benefit from this company. Processing brown grease protects municipal water systems and the environment. Enhancing the well-being of the environment never goes out of style. An added bonus, in talking about all the truck traffic on Blows Flats, is that this business will not have a high demand on any roadways, as we've seen maybe 5 vehicles per day. That's almost unheard of with any type of commercial business. The owners and I are the owners and I are pleased that Grease Outlet has chosen this property in James City County for their next business location, and with your support, this could become a reality. We do appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you, folks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Waltz.
Yes, sir.
And so I will then close the public hearing and ask if anybody has any questions or comments. I would like to just ask a question of staff, I guess. Mr. Lemon made a suggestion that perhaps there would be an adjustment to the entranceway that might be more, that might be safer than the current one. Is that something that could be addressed at the site plan stage, or is that more or less fixed at this point?
Well, I had a conversation yesterday with Mr. Lehman, and he was referencing an entry from Pocahontas to the parcel, not Blow Flats Road, to the parcel, and that had already been discussed with VDOT, so it would be too close to the current intersection of Blow Flats Road and Pocahontas Trail.
I misunderstood when you indicated an adjustment to the west. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
I've got a few comments.
Okay, great.
I'm glad to see that, you know, we're looking at another business in James City County and to our many businesses. And welcome to Grease Outlet to James City County. You know, we're back to this road, and I'm gonna harp on this road till we get something done because it's definitely an issue. You know, we've got a business that's been here since 1970, and we postponed it till next meeting to see about the road. And we've got a new company coming in, which I support this new company, and I want them to come to James City County, stay in James City County, make it so they can be in James City County. But we take one company that's been very loyal to James City County, great company, James City County, and we're going to hold you off because of the road. Well, and I know nobody's discussed what we're going to do, but I'm having a hard time telling a company that's been here for so long in James City County, well, I know you've been doing it. You've been operating like this for 17 years. Well, guess what? We found this out. We're going to postpone this. We're going to hold this off. We're going to check on these things. And then we need to hear all these public hearings, but I have pause if one goes through or two go through or none go through, or I'm for all of them going through. And it's not the companies, it's the road. And I think we hold responsibility on that to a certain extent with VDOT. I think this is something it's nobody's fault. It's just slipped through the cracks. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not causing any blame for anyone. I think staff does a wonderful job, and I hope staff doesn't think that any of this is directed to them, because it's not. It's just one of them situations that we've got in. We've got companies coming here that we want to come to our community. They're adding to the benefit in the Grove area and the James City County. And we've got a road that we're worried about, and we got neighbors that are coming out saying, you know, this is a blind corner. And they're making this turn across traffic as I'm trying to come out, and the dump trucks are coming out and everything else. I have no problem supporting any of these companies, but we've got to do something about the road. It's the road. It's not the companies. It's a perfect spot for this. But we've got a road issue. And, you know, if we promote, we say, okay, you can go in, but you've been here so long, we're going to wait and check on you. I don't think it sends out a very good signal from this board to our business community out there. And I want our business community to thrive. I want to help them. I want to get our EDA involved. I want new companies to come to James City County and thrive, because it helps with our tax base. It also helps with the taxes that our citizens are paying. So I'm all supportive of this grease outlet coming. I'm glad they picked James City County. I want to help them to make sure that they get what they need and can be where they want to be. But I'm concerned about this road, and concerned about telling a company that's been here ever since Henry came out of the mountains and came to James City County as a new business back then. You know, and bless heart, Henry's gone now, but you know, that's where it all started. And now we're telling a loyal customer, a loyal company in James City County. And I know it's not by design. We're not doing this. I don't want anybody to take offense. I'm just giving them my 2 cents. And I'd like to see these all move forward, but our road issue is our road issue. And if we can get help with that, help with VDOT, help with staff, help to figure this road item out, I think we'd be better off, because there's going to be other development in there. They're coming in that area. And I don't blame them. It's a great area. Now that we've done the Skiffs Creek connector, it's even better now. And, you know, is a prime example. This is one of the reasons we came here, because we like the connector. And it's a great job, and it's great, all the work that this board put in to get that where it is today, where it wasn't years ago. So it's a plus in our cap, but now we found out that the Below Flats Road is an issue and that needs to be addressed. So once again, my 2 cents on it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yeah, just the fact that the amount of traffic from this application is minimal compared to what we've heard earlier this evening, to me speaks volumes. And the fact that they already are saying that, this is just daylight. And I know that it's potentially changing. The other application, I believe we agreed, is going to continue to operate until we get something figured out. So that aside, I think this particular application and all of our businesses are amazing here. We want to bring as much economic development here. I'm a champion for that, believe me. I think this is going to help businesses all throughout our community that already exist, and especially our tourism-related businesses. And I think it's an important asset. But for me, the fact that it's a very minor amount of vehicular traffic lends me to be able to go ahead and support this tonight.
Any other comments? I'll just say that I'm going to support this application tonight, and part of the reason for that is that it is bringing in a new business that is using some new technologies to accomplish a good service for the community. I do think that there is a significant difference between the cases that we just had, and we have to recognize that when we're talking about infrastructure, we're not talking about unlimited dollars. And so, to me, it's worth an effort to try to figure out if Greenmount is going to be something that we can accomplish that will really serve not just a particular business that admits that it would like to have that access over Below Flats Road, and other industries that are located around in that area. Frankly, if those other parcels on the area of Manufacturers Drive, Commerce, and Below Flats Road developed, they would not generate, in my estimation, anywhere close to the kind of traffic that is currently coming out of the Branscome property. I think it would benefit the Branscome property to have an easier access. And so if I had to make a choice between making an investment in completing that road and redoing Below Flats Road, my guess is it would be a better expenditure of our efforts in the former case than the latter. But I do think that there are some significant differences here. This is a case where we are going to see at least some improvement to Below Flats Road as a result of the development, that we are going to see, in fact, trucks that are about half the size of the trucks that currently make as many as 250 trips per day up and down the road, that it is not going to have the same kind of impact that we would have seen in the other instance. Again, we're letting that other establishment go forward while we figure this out, but I do think that ultimately we're going to have to figure out where the best bang for the buck is in the limited resources that we're going to have available, both in terms of time, staff involvement, and whatever financial resources we may be called upon to exercise. So that's just my 2 cents.
Are you looking for a motion?
I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move the motion.
Motion to approve the application.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower? Aye. Mr. Hippel?
I'm voting aye, but understanding that it's a new business and we still have issues, I agree with, letting this new business in, but I just caution, not the new business, just the Below Flats Road area, whichever way we decide to come out, that we need to work on that, but yes.
Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, motion approved. And we now move on to our next item, which is, we're now completed with our public hearings. We'll move on to board considerations, and we go to SUP 22-0016, 141 Below Flats Road, battery storage. Ms. Condon.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. After the deferral at the October 11th Board of Supervisors meeting, staff has had additional meetings with the applicant and his design team. Staff included planning staff, the building official, fire chief, fire marshal, and Todd Cannon with our regional hazardous materials for the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. Staff also had conversations with James City County Police separately. Following these discussions, staff has included 3 new conditions to ensure enhanced protections. These conditions include number 7, fire safety measures, which requires additional safety measures be incorporated into the design of the facility and guarantees this design meets the 2018 Virginia Statewide Fire Prevention Code. Number 8, hazard mitigation analysis requires that a failure modes and effects analysis or equivalent will be completed prior to site plan approval and reviewed and approved by the fire official. Number 11, commissioning report requires that a commissioning report, including initial acceptance testing, be submitted for review and approval by the fire official prior to the final CO for the site. Staff's proposed amendment to condition number 17 increases the number of months from 48 to 60 for the implementation timeline of this special use permit. I am happy to answer any questions you may have, and Lieutenant Hicklin and the applicant are available to answer any questions as well. I'll now turn things over to Chief Ash. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Sorry I wasn't with you last meeting when we discussed the fire safety portions. So I just want to address, I think Paxton did a good job of including all that information for us. But in our meeting that we had with the applicant, again, we included Fire Marshal Lamb, who's also here with us, and Todd Cannon from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. We took an opportunity to really look at what are the hazards associated with battery storage, because it is relatively new for us. And while there isn't an NFPA standard adopted, there is a draft of one. However, it is included in the 2018 Fire Prevention Code for the state of Virginia. It includes a number of conditions, and we went ahead and included those in the amendments specific to this SUP. Normally, we would get to that portion during the site plan review and as we get into construction, but we did go ahead and work with the applicant and put those in, those SUP conditions. So they address things like early detection. For us, the important things is, can we access a site? Do we know about an emergency early? And do we have the right measures to contain or mitigate any hazard that would be there? And so for us, early detection systems, there's both smoke and heat detectors. There's also gas detection on site. All of those will trip the system, if you will, and shut it down and disconnect it from the grid. And certainly the applicant can talk in the more specific details of those systems. And there's also a fire suppression system that's a dry chemical. And then most importantly, one of the issues with the battery type storage systems is thermal runaway, where the batteries could continue to produce heat. So this system will have a water pipe system connected to each row of batteries, and the fire department will have a connection there where we can essentially flood the cabinets to provide cooling. So I think early detection, working with them as we get into the specifics of how we address any emergencies there, access to the site, good water supply system that's there, and we've included all those as conditions in the SUP.
Thank you very much, Chief, for that information and for the conditions that you've provided here. Anybody have any questions for staff or the Chief?
Chief, I had 2 questions for you. Number one, when you guys were looking at this, obviously this is a fairly new technology. Do you have any idea? This just came up in my mind right now, so I apologize for not giving you a heads up on this before, because this is off the cuff for me too. How many are there very many other similar type of battery storage facilities in Virginia or in our local area? And if so, how prevalent are they? And then secondly, if we know, what has the safety record been on any of them?
Sure. So I understand there's a number of pilot programs, one in Hanover, one in New Kent, one up in Loudoun County. I believe there's another one in Powhatan. I think they've typically been associated with a solar facility, and I think that was, learning through the process a little bit, it was based on tax credits. So often there's a tax credit benefit by associating those with solar facilities, and those have all been pilot programs. There's certainly others in our research across the country that have been done as well, but certainly this is the first in James City County, and I think the first in our immediate area.
Okay. And then the second question was, in my aviation career, I've learned that NiCad batteries or lithium-ion batteries in airplanes are really a deadly mix. and there's about thermal runaway and things like that. So my question was, I'm sort of curious, was I had never heard of, of course, you wouldn't have it on an airplane, but yeah, water to control a thermal runaway. Is there a sort of a history of that kind of a system being effective, and is it in use elsewhere, or is it fairly new technology to deal with?
You know, in our research, and I think the applicant provided some of this information when we met as well, you know, there's been other occurrences over the last, some in the last few years, some over the last 15 years across the country involving batteries, and we've certainly seen some of those things on the news and things about different. And when we worked with the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, they'd actually recently, Todd Cannon, our local hazmat officer, had recently done a training for the hazardous materials teams across the state about lithium-ion batteries and the hazards associated. And their recommendation in training is really cooling and submerging, and in this case in the cabinet, really just flooding that cabinet and filling it up. It's no cabinet's technically completely leak-proof, but really filling that cabinet up to a point that seals it. The chemical system that's in place breaks the chemical chain reaction to stop the fire, but doesn't really offer much cooling. So really being able to hook to the fire department connection and flood those cabinets provides that cooling that ultimately stops the thermal runaway. And they're also, you know, even though these are, if you've had a chance to look at the site plan, number of rows of these, there are a series of cabinets in each of those rows. The fireproofing in those containers also prevents the spread from one bank to the next. And then the separation between rows of units also prevent that if we did have one experienced thermal runaway, isolate that to that one area without it spreading to the other rows of batteries. Some people believe when they say lithium, there is some concern. Some folks believe that you can't put water on lithium, but these are lithium-ion batteries, which water is the best extinguishing agent for.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for the chief? Chief, thank you very much for both being here tonight to make this presentation and for all the work that you and members of your staff put into this question.
Thank you.
And to the state for helping out with that as well. So any other comments or discussion? Not, do I have a motion on this matter?
I'll move the motion.
For the approval of SUP 220016. Mr. Stevens, call the roll, please.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye. Once again, that road, so.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Virtually no traffic on the road.
Yes.
As a result of this project. Okay. This moves us to our grant award for the Virginia Association of Planning District Commissions, Virginia Housing Grant Award, $300,000. Mr. Pollard. Well, you're not Mr. Pollard.
Adding cleanup for Mr. Pollard tonight.
Nice to have you here, Mr. Holt.
And complimenting the agenda item that was on your calendar earlier tonight for the disposition of the property. We're continuing the partnership to really create the opportunity to have 9 new lots for affordable housing. There you go. This was the copy of the plat that was included in your agenda packets. So part of the dilemma as we worked to develop this was you got a big old water line running right through the property that makes these lots unbuildable otherwise. So continue to problem solve and say, well, we need to go find some money to relocate that water line and that sewer line. Mr. Pollard had some really good opportunities with the Hampton Ridge Planning District Commission, leveraged some of the work that was already accomplished by the Workforce Housing Task Force, and put in a competitive application for $300 to help relocate those water mains.
Cheap price.
$300,000.
That's right. Inflation notwithstanding, we do believe that will cover those real costs and some of the other soft costs to create these lots. Staff recommends approval of the resolution and acceptance of the award. It does not require a local match and we believe this will help make this
Those are
project.
magic words too, aren't they? Don't require a local match.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toll. Anybody have questions for
Yeah,
staff?
where are the, which way do they move the water and sewer lines? Out toward the street or up to the back, or what's it?
It'll be one or the other. We'll sit
They
down
haven't
and
made up-
work down with
it's-
JCSA
it's
staff.
still-
and-
It's still a work in progress. It's just that it can be done with this amount of money then.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe
good.
so. And we had early conversations on with JCSA that help us believe that to be an accurate estimate.
Thank you.
No other questions? Let me just say that, first of all, that I think this is a great opportunity for us to make some substantial headway in the issue of affordability of housing, and terrific that we're able to partner with Habitat on a good portion of this. And I just want to more generally say that I think Mr. Poller and his staff are doing an outstanding job in identifying opportunities of this kind. This is a pretty rare and unusual one, but every little piece is helping us to address a very serious need in the community. So I'll look for a motion.
Motion for approval?
Approval of the grant. Mr. Stevens, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, and we have one last item under board considerations, and that's the 2023 legislative agenda. Mr. Kinsman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, stuffed animals. What I have before you tonight
Vote for
is
Chance.
the board's 2023 legislative program. We went over this at the work session, or at your previous meeting. I won't belabor going over each and every one of them. Perhaps for the benefit of the public, if the board would like, I'd go over the few new ones that we have from last year.
That would be fine.
Okay. Number 5 on your list was the grocery tax. And the county encourages the General Assembly to ensure that any reduction in the grocery tax includes permanent replacement funding for local governments and school divisions. Number 6, short-term rentals. The county requests that the General Assembly reject any attempt to usurp local zoning control of short-term housing rentals. Number 7, regarding the Virginia retirement system, and we recommend the General Assembly amend their regulations to allow retired police officers and school resource officers to return from retirement without affecting their VRS status. And then number 8, Colonial Behavioral Health. We encourage the General Assembly to approve their request for funding to expand a building on their Merrimack campus to provide for crisis service operations. Then we did have a minor change to our legislative programs in which we also endorse the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission and the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, I recommend approval of the resolution making this your official program. I will note too that due to a number of scheduling difficulties that have occurred with the holiday week, we're not inviting our legislators to come before the board at their next meeting, but after discussions with Chairman McGlinnan, I'll write a letter sort of explaining what the board's status is on all of these and ask for their support. Again, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Not to really answer a question, but I just want to highlight the position we've taken on short-term rentals, that for some reason or another, apparently there are some folks in Richmond who have come to the conclusion that James City County is being obstinate and very restrictive in terms of our treatment of short-term rentals. And I think you did an excellent job last year in highlighting the fact that, in fact, we have a very large number of residential units in the county that can by right be subject to short-term rentals, and that we have a pretty strong record of approval of those which do require an SUP. So I want to thank you for the work you've done on that, and to say that we've got a lot of work to make sure that legislators understand that someone is painting a very wrong picture of our community.
I agree.
Thank you very much for the work that you've done on this and for all the work that you do. This comment is in no reflection of anything that any of your work. You and I have had this discussion. I feel as this county has grown and as the number of things that often come up during General Assembly, which moves very fast, because this is a list, but there's so many more things that happen in Richmond that impact us, that I have brought this up before. I just continue to encourage this board to consider a more presence in Richmond for that General Assembly time. I know you do everything you can do to get up there, but you are a very, very busy person already. So it's a concern of mine. I just feel like we need to be ready to go all the time with everything that's happening. But thank you for this, and thank you for the work that you will do in this coming session.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not,
I'll move it.
okay. Motion to approve.
Yes.
Motion to approve the legislative agenda for 2023.
Sorry. Yes.
Mrs. Stevens, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Board requests and directives.
I've got two things. Number one, I think I may have been the only board member there, but I went to the November 2nd library meeting, and it was well-attended in the theater. A lot of citizen input and questions and stuff. And I've also fielded quite a few phone calls about the library situation. I think there is a misconception on the part of some folks, thinking that we are further along in the process than we really are. And secondly, there's a concern that we're talking about not doing one at one place downtown and trying to usurp that and move it out into the county. And I think it was pretty clear from the meeting where Mr. Stevens was there that the city is committed to doing a renovation of the library down there. The question becomes the scope and whether or not we want to have a third location in James City County. So I think it's going to be incumbent on us to engage with our constituents and make sure they get good information in this process as we go forward. And I look forward to listening to their input on what we want to do. And the last thing I wanted to do is thank Mr. McGlinnan because he sent a letter from the board over his signature to Ms. Kimberly Laska, who is the Executive Director of Heritage Humane, and highlighting her leadership over the last 10 years. And if those of you who in the community are aware, Heritage Humane is a really, really important part of our community. I mean, it services Williamsburg, James City County, and York, and it's my favorite to support because of being a no-kill shelter and doing a really good job of placing animals in homes. So I think she's done a fantastic job, and thank you, Mr. McGlinnan, on doing that letter on behalf of the board.
Chapel?
All right, I just want to go over Below Flats Road. No, I'm just playing. I have nothing to add tonight.
Tell us how you really feel.
Middle of the pack.
Going to get a lot more business now. A lot of tourists can be looking for Below Flats Road because I've heard so much about it.
Yeah.
So I was unable to attend that library meeting. I appreciate you going there. I use that library, but I have to give a plug. I went out to I'm embarrassed to tell you it's been a while since I've been out to the James City County Library, and they have just done an incredible job out there. It is, I encourage you, if you've not been out there, especially if you have children or grandchildren, to go out there. It is a mini science museum. It is, it is really something. And so, for me, what I've been very transparent with people, I love the downtown library, but I also feel as though we as a county need to do what we can do in order to drive people into our county and into people who have put an economic investment in our county, and and provide those type of opportunities to people in various parts of the county that maybe not be able to get down to downtown. I have to once again, I have not said anything about this for a while. This is my Below Flats Road, and that is my frustration about the WADA, no benches, no shelter. I was traveling on Centerville Road the other day where the grass was thigh-high, really, and so somebody couldn't stand at their bus stop. They had to stand in that tiny little, what's it called?
Media?
Yes, right there on the side of the road. maybe for bicycles. But in order to get to their, it was dangerous, frankly. And I understand, I know they tell us that those stops move, so they can't put a bench there. But I wish we could have a community partnership with businesses, something. Because frankly, the spots haven't moved. And not while the 7 years that I've been here. They've in the same place. And I really get frustrated in front of retail operations where people are carrying purchases and or in front of places of employment where people are trying to get to and from. They're tired when they've come out after a long day and they have to stand and wait for a bus. They have to stand and wait in the elements. I understand shelters may not be possible, but my gosh, please just somebody tell me how much a bench is, and I will do everything I can do to get a business to sponsor a bench. And if you are a business that has a WADA stop at your place and your employees are coming out, please work with WADA to get a bench. But it just is, I just find it very frustrating to me that we are not able to do better. So I hope that that is something that we can continue to work on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Ms. Sadler?
I don't have anything other than to say thank you to our veterans who are out in our community and all across our nation. Veterans Day is approaching. I do know my grandson's school, proud to say, at Providence Classical, they're having a Veterans Day ceremony at 9 a.m. Welcome everyone to come and join me, because I got kids there, gotta be there. Want to be there. And again, thank you to all of our vets that are out there. And as polls close across this great land of ours, God bless America.
Amen.
Does
I would
anyone,
just,
oh, sorry, Chair, does anyone know who put the flags out in front of Veterans Park? They're beautiful. I think it was it the Rotarians?
At the Memorial Park over behind the cemetery there?
No,
Oh.
on Veterans Park on Ironbound.
Ironbound.
It's a beautiful display. I
did
don't
not
know who
notice
did
that.
that, but it's
I'm not
beautiful.
sure.
All the flags. Sorry about that.
that's quite all right. I just have one item to mention that on actually not quite sure what the date was exactly at this point, but since our last meeting, I attended the 5th anniversary of Billsburg Brewery, and I believe that the county administrator was there at one.
No, sir, it was
okay.
on my list. and did not
Yes, I
make
was
it.
there as
Ms.
well.
Larson was there.
I'm just touring all the breweries
board
lately.
members were there. But it was a great celebration. Lots of folks were out there enjoying the good music, good food, good drinks, and it was nice to see such a successful business thriving in that location. So with that, I will turn it to County Administrator.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I only have one item to share, and that's really building on Ms. Sadler's comment and thanking our veterans. Our National Association of Counties and our Virginia Association of Counties has supported Operation Greenlight, or encouraged counties to do things to recognize and honor our veterans. We have participated in that, so our courthouse is lit green in the evening. So as you ride by out on Monticello from November 7th through the 13th, that is what is going on there for the courthouse during this week. So just want to bring attention to that and thank our veterans as well.
Thank you for doing that and saying that,
And
Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Stevens, I will add, if you don't mind, on Friday, the 11th, there will be 2 ceremonies that I'm aware of. One is going to be by the Combined Veterans Organizations at the Bell Tower on Discovery Boulevard at 10 o'clock in the morning. And competing with that at the same time, I believe that the Colonial Williamsburg and the Sons of the American Revolution will be doing one in front of the Governor's Palace. And then at 3:30 in the afternoon will be the Veterans March down Duke of Gloucester Street to behind the courthouse. So those are events people are welcome to come out and enjoy.
Anybody else have anything to add?
Mr. Chairman, I ask for adjournment to 1 p.m. on November 22nd, 2022 for a business meeting.
Gantz and I say that that's a great motion. We just would like to mention that it's a lot easier to scratch the belly of a pup like Chance than this fish.
Low maintenance pup.
And with that, we have a motion to adjourn to 1 p.m. on November 22nd for business meeting. Mr. Stevens, call roll.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye, go Chance.
Who-